Greetings and salutations!
Indeed. And yes, so here I am, and I kind of wanted to do an update video because I haven't been here over the last 3.5 weeks. Actually, I haven't actually been here on, like, YouTube and actually done stuff or anything like that since May the 4th. When I got infected by a nasty virus that really doesn't do much for normal people. But guess what? I have a blood disease, and yeah, it nearly killed me. So that's kind of cheerful, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of... Well, anyways, my blood disease, I think I'm going to just try to explain. I might get a bit complicated here, but like, try to bear with me. I'm just going to go through what has really happened over the last period of time. And if you wonder, yes, I've said it, I actually have some recorded footage of, like, stuff, I think. I haven't uploaded yet, so I think I'm going to do that once I recover, since I'm not perfectly fine yet. I am very, very tired, and my blood percentage isn't really that good. But I'm getting better, and I'm definitely going to recover fully, so that's good. So, like, anyways. Like, the blood disease I have is called spherocytosis, and basically means that my blood cells are of a different shape than everybody else's. Mine are round as the billiard ball, like, just basically a circle, whilst other people have, like, generally speaking, American peanut-shaped blood cells. And, like, that means that basically there's going to be there is an awful lot more of, like, wear and tear on my blood cells, because they touched that at arteries and vein walls more, which means that there's a much greater degradation and destruction of blood cells in my body, which my spleen has to take care of, which is filtered out through there. And my spleen actually is like 5 times as large as it should be right now. It's like, the length of it is like 21 centimeters, and it's supposed to be 10 centimeters long. And not to talk about width and actually, like, general size. Which is one of the by-effects, because I had a very, very high, like, blood deterioration and wear and tear, which also was an effect of the disease. But basically, a disease called paravirus B19, it is a very, very simple disease, really. It doesn't do much. You might get a rash, and yeah, joint aches, like in your joints. That's about it. But the thing is that a disease has a chance of just unplugging your blood production, which is the case with me. So I ended up pretty much coming home from school. I had a headache. I just got a headache, and like I don't know, I think it was around 11 o'clock, and like, yeah, I just ignored it and continued throughout the day, and just came home, ate something, went to bed because I wasn't feeling too well, and vomited. And I vomited again, and 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 again. Yeah, I ended up, like, absolutely crashed. That was from May the 4th to, like, May the 6th or 7th. Yeah, stuff went really, really wrong. I was so ill that I drank a quarter of a glass of water and I just vomited, like, instantly. It was kind of weird because I had appetite. I wanted to eat stuff, but I couldn't. Basically everything is no, doesn't work. So that was kind of like scary, but I just thought it was standard, like, a stomach flu. I just thought it was that, a rather strong version of it. But it turned out it wasn't, and yeah. So I was continuing throughout the day, 4th of May and 5th of May. I had like 39 fever, just general anthem level, and I was like shaking very, very violently. It's not particularly fun. So anyways, it was like I was taken care for by my grandmother at the time, because she was because I have a little brother, and seemingly I'm not trusted. That's okay though, because then I don't have to do as much stuff and I can get waffles. But like, basically, my she is getting a bit old, and therefore she isn't quite good at disaster handling or whatever you could call it. So yeah, I was kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't treated correctly at least. I was like stuff. So yeah. Then my father came home on Saturday, I think around midday. And he was like, okay, probably I think he got stomach flu. And I thought I was like, yeah, fine. Just, I have 39 fever. I'm not going to oppose you or anything. I'm just going to lie here and be ill. Just hopefully it won't last that long. But I basically thought that, but it... I continued to get worse and worse throughout Saturday, and on Sunday we went to the hospital, I don't know, emergency services, but it's basically the hospital guard, like those who like are always open, like you can just come and just check and stuff. I was given like Coke and soda and stuff, which tend to help if you have got a stomach flu. And we just went in there. I've just basically I could barely walk. So I was like taken in there, it was absolutely white, and he was like, yeah, we need probably a hospital bed, and it was taken in. I actually heard a couple of childbirths there, so that was kind of weird. I think it was 2. I just remember that very clearly. It's heard vaguely in the distance. Like, anyways, so I was lying there and sipping my soda quietly, and for like 2.5 hours, because it seemingly was an epidemic-ish thing with just stomach flu was going around. So everybody thought, okay, that's what it is. It's just not likely that this is anything else than that. This was lying there, not really being treated by anybody, and 2.5 hours passed, and I was feeling better. I had a doctor check up on me a couple of times, like every 45 minutes or something. But like, we didn't take any blood tests, we didn't take anything like that, because basically the doctor was seemingly kind of afraid of getting it himself. So it was like, yeah, it was improper care. It was below what you should expect. So I was basically thinking I was better, and I used to went home. I laid down here in my basement, because I have 2 rooms. My bedroom, and my room downstairs here, which is where I tend to spend most of my time. And there's a couch behind me, and I was just laid on the couch and ate potato chips and drank Coke. I was like, I was okay. I started at the time to just feel kind of bad. I thought it just turned, and everything was getting slowly fine then. It was getting better. So yeah, my father has watched my room, because I'm very, very bad at aiming when I vomit an awful lot. So yeah, it kind of had to watch. He kind of had to watch, but it's okay. Things went fine. Basically, I was taken upstairs again, and I really don't like lying in my bed at that time. So I was kind of better, but not a lot. As and of course I couldn't sleep. I couldn't really sleep at all. I only slept a couple of hours between every night, I think. But I was just basically just lying in the bed, just feeling the pain, and vomiting. Which I did a lot of, as previously stated, and yeah. So, Monday came, and I remember that was when I really, really turned for the worst. Monday was the time I perhaps think I was absolutely at my worst. So I think I recall that I was famished. So I was like, please, could you give me like a yogurt or something? Since I thought that since the yogurt has low pH value, it's probably not going to be as upsetting for my stomach. And it wasn't. I ate like a couple of yogurts, and I did not vomit. But the thing was that it's, instead of like doing positive things, it basically created like a layer of like yogurt above every the nasty stuff in my stomach that made me vomit and stuff. It felt like that, at least. So I was like, it was getting progressively more and more painful. So I like, and of course that was, I think, on Monday. So of course he had to go to work, and my little brother went to school. I think, yeah, he probably did that. I know this is like around 9 o'clock. I was like 9-10 o'clock. I was like, ended up having to crawl because I couldn't walk. Crawled out to the kitchen. It got some soda and I drank it because I knew what was going to happen, since I can't have two different things in my stomach. I had just slowly researched on that myself. So I was like, took a sip of Coke, put it down, took up the plastic bag, and I vomited. I felt better after that, but then I just realised, okay, you're not really getting better, are you now? No, you probably need some severe medical checkups. So I was like, okay, and I used to went in and laid myself on the couch. My father came in during lunch, and he was like, why are you lying here? Why aren't you in bed? And I explained to him, and he was like, you probably should. He was like, took me back into bed, and I just said to him, like, I need to go to the doctor. And he agreed. And basically sprang, and we got an hour. We got, I think it was 14:15 on the 24-hour clock, so like, that's 2:15. And, yeah. Those following hours were absolutely horrible. That was when I really, really went bad. I was like, I was getting frightened at that time. Well, not really frightened, because like, I didn't know anything. Because like, I had very, very high fever, so I couldn't really respond to anything. I wasn't really aware of how serious my situation at that time was, because like, we're speaking 39, nearing 14 fever, and it's basically uncontrollable jittering, hyperventilation, and yeah, that was what I had to do. That persisted for 2 hours. That was a little hell, and basically got ourselves up to the like medical. Yeah, like, it's like the hospital, and there's like a medical area before, because last time we went to hospital, but he wasn't pleased with the level of care we got there. So we went to like the other thing that's closer to us, which is basically only medical checkups. So we went there, and like, we were taken in, and it was like, yeah, it probably needs to be looked at instantaneously. I couldn't walk on my own, so I had to be like held up by my dad. He like supported me, like, shoulder thing. I think you know how. So like, I just came in, I was put on a bed, and they took blood tests, and seemingly enough, my blood percentage was 5.2, which is acute, nearly fatal anemia. Yeah, that's the time when it's like, okay, this guy needs a blood transfusion quickly. That's not good at all. 5.2 is very, very low. The usual thing to have is 13. Blood percentage is basically the amount of red blood cells in your bloodstream. That means usually you have about 12 to 13%. I had 5.2. Which means I get like nearly a third, a bit over a third of like the oxygen around in my body. But the thing is that I actually, your body compensates for that by increasing the heart rate. So my pulse at that time, I think it was between 110 and 120, and you usually have like 60, so that's like 2 beats in a second, which is quite high. But that also creates another problem, because I have these oddly shaped blood cells, which means the degradation of my blood cells goes even faster, which means that my blood percentage goes down even quicker. And they were like, okay, you need to the hospital right now. So I was like taken into a wheelchair and just rolled down. I actually got an offer whether or not I wanted to go in an ambulance or not. It probably was a better idea to just take my father's car. So it's like, it's not really that far. It's a 10-minute drive. So basically, just went in. I was rolled down in a wheelchair by a caring maid, caring assistant or whatever. I don't know. I just put in the car and just drove to hospital, and I was basically put me in the hospital bed, and I was rolled into instant inspection. I had like 5-6 doctors, and like probably only one doctor and like 5 assistants just doing like checkups on me. I think they started just taking the samples and take a total, since they only took like the blood percentage there. I then took like total samples, and yeah, my blood values were very, very bad because of my blood disease, of course. And then I was just basically taken into a room, and they started like warming up blood, since that is what they do. It takes like 2 hours to warm up a bag of blood. Because I needed blood transfusions, so I was basically put in a hospital bed. I was given intravenous, like I was like given like that fluorescent, that liquid stuff that you get in hospital. I was basically given that, and an hospital bed, and I had like tons of assistants around me. And at that time, that is when I start to not remember much more, because that's when things started getting a bit hairy, even hairier actually. So I kind of like just lay there in the hospital bed, and the caring assistants like trying to talk to me and stuff, but I was absolutely gone. I don't remember a thing I said. I was absolutely absent. I was like, it was basically talking in a figurative state. You don't remember anything, and it's absolutely nonsensical what you say, usually at least. I don't know if I had to go to the bathroom. I was basically that was the time. Is basically I sat on the. They took off like the absolutely emergency gear and stuff, and just like I made me sit on the hospital bed, and I rose up. Where I was like supported by 2 people, and I took like 2 steps with like double or elbow support, and fainted. Flat out fainted. I basically just collapsed, which kind of tells you how bad of a state I was in. And then I remember waking up again in my hospital bed. I think. Yeah, that was how it was. A couple of minutes later. So that was quite clear how bad in a state I actually was. So they got no blood, and they put it, because I was in such a bad state, they put it actually on a pump, because they needed to give it to me more quickly than they usually do. So I was given, I don't know what value it is, but like 120, 60 is normal, and they gave me like twice the rate. I was put on that blood, and I've never received blood before. So guess what's happened? I got a reaction. Ah yes. A nasty reaction. It was bad. And my fever shot up into the 40s. Like, not above 40, like, not like 41 and stuff, but like 40.2 and 3 and stuff like that. And, I remember being really plugged onto that, and like I remember being plugged into the thing, or basically having it plugged into like a valve in my hand. and I remember like the face of the one person on like shifts at a time, and saying something to her. I think it was like 90% female, like nurses. Yeah, nurses is the name. Yeah, there we go. Nurses, which I quite favour. I favour female nurses instead of male. I'm going to say that. Yes, outright. Anyways, and the next thing I remember, the clock is 4. It's dark, and I'm in this basement. I can hear like the beeps from like machines, like do do do, go in the background, and it's absolutely otherworldly. And there's like this guy. It's absolutely dark. It's like one light from another room is in the end. This is like one person. My father is on the bed behind, like in the other side of the room, because there's another bed here, and he was like asked to sleep, but he couldn't because he loves me so much, I guess. And basically, it was like in the background there, and he said something to me I couldn't really reckon. But there's this other person, that was actually a doctor, and he's just walking around, like doing stuff, and it was kind of very, very weird because it was dark. It was a night, and it was like he had like this really like, I don't know what you say, you'd call it, like this, you know, that weird back shape you can have, like you have like this. You know, like it just looked very, very weird, and he started talking to me, and he had like the weirdest accent, and he was like very, very otherworldly. He asked me if I had to go to the toilet, by the way, but that was so strange. That's hands down the strangest thing I've ever experienced. It isn't strange in itself. The thing was, I was on the emergency ward, which is like built in '74. I really liked it there, actually. I prefer that in front of the like modern 2009 built room that I got later. But like, yeah, it felt so otherworldly. Like, I couldn't sleep, of course. At the time, I think my fever had gone down a bit, and I had received like 2 bags of blood, and my like blood level was kind of improving, so I was getting better. But like, I was like lying there, and it was so strange. It feels absolutely like otherworldly. I just can't get over that. But basically, yeah. So I was like awake through the rest of the night. I remember being very, very hungry, and then they gave you breakfast, and I have to speak a bit because I really like food. And hospital food is not a culinary experience. No, I like good food, and they had rubber. Like, the bread came in plastic packets of 2 slices and had foreign writing on it. Yeah, the only thing I was actually positive was the fish, because like I live in a coastal town and they seemingly had local fish, so that was actually kind of positive. Like, yeah, absolutely horrible food. The buns tasted like rubber, and they felt like rubber too. That's actually the one thing I really liked when I came out of hospital. So I've actually been out of hospital for a while now, but I've just been slowly recovering, not really having energy to do anything. Besides just sit here and play video games. But basically, okay. So there I was. For a couple of more days. I sent a message to like Andrew explaining that I wasn't really feeling well. And I was in the emergency ward. It wasn't as dramatic as I probably am making it to be, which I didn't want it to sound dramatic because it wasn't really too dramatic. It's like it's kind of slow and stuff. But yeah, so I was transported. No, I wasn't. No, well, they basically stayed there for a couple of days. They kept me under supervision. And my condition wasn't really improving. It was like artificially being held stable by giving me blood and stuff like that. So the thing with that disease, is that it basically holds grasp of you. Well, basically my blood production is for an unestimated amount of time will just stay flat and not be really producing anything, so I have to be artificially supported by giving me blood. That just goes on for a while. I don't know how long it was. Well, I think it took like a week and a half before my blood production is kicking in again. Which is surprisingly little, since usually it's like seemingly around a month. So I would probably still be lying in hospital if it wasn't for my body seemingly recovering rather quickly when it comes to that. But basically, yeah, so I laid there a couple of days. My nurses were really like kind and stuff. I tend to be very, very liked by nurses, so that's a positive thing. Basically, like, yeah, and then I was transported back to like the hospital room, and it was a clear reduction in like care level. Like there you basically had like a nurse just standing over you every 20 minutes, just asking you, are you alive still? But like in the place I came to, which was basically like the standard ward, it's kind of worse. But I have to say that I'm kind of like positively surprised by our healthcare system, since I live in Norway. And it's just, I am kind of happy at it. I thought a lot about that when I was in hospital. Because like, if I had lived in the United States, I could never have gotten health insurance, because I have this so-called pre-existing condition. And since I wouldn't have health insurance, I probably would have died. Not died, but I probably would have been... I would probably, at this current time, I would be in a debt of in between $100,000 and $200,000. Which I'm not too keen on, really, since medical care is very expensive in the US. So I'm kind of happy I don't live there. And I was treated fairly well, I have to say. But basically, like, yeah, in the normal ward, I stayed for like a week, I think. And when I started like improving, and they actually had like tests. But it happened really quickly. It's like one day I had 5 in what is called reticulocytes. Well, that's just the Norwegian name, Englishified in my head. So I don't. They're probably wrong, but like, yeah, those went from 5, and to the next day, 47, which is half or a bit below half for the normal person. I tend to have them at around 150 or more, and then they wanted 150 or 147. So that's a 210. No. 2,100, there we go, percent increase in 2 days. So yeah. And then they said, yeah, we're probably going to put you on leave from hospital if you want to. So I was kind of getting like tired of hospital, because my that was the time when my blood percentage was improving. I was kind of feeling better. I kind of had more energy, and I just didn't like sitting absolutely still in bed, because I have like some back issues, and it hurt like all hell. Luckily it was a chair, so you could like sit in the chair, and there was of course like there was a computer thing you could use, free will, and also only solar rooms. I think there are only solar rooms, my hospital at least. Which is a good thing. I don't like sharing rooms when I'm ill. Basically, yeah, so that's what pretty much happened, and then I was taken to the hospital. Came back the day after, so I was feeling pretty well. I couldn't pretty much sleep a lot at the very the night before. So the night where after I came out, so they were kind of like, should we let him out or should we not? I took another test and the results were pretty much equal, and the percentage improved a bit. So we're like, okay, we're gonna let you go. And yeah, so I was let go from hospital, and yeah, I don't know what May that was, but I think it is 1.5 weeks ago, around that time. And I've been actually thinking a lot. I've kind of been thinking a lot since the time, since my father said one thing. Like I think I was in emergency care when at the time the doctor wasn't there. Like very quietly said, I think it's like, you know, you're lucky to be alive. I was like, yeah. Held up my hand, which I often do, like just observe my hand, and like, yeah. Yes, you're right. I've actually thought about that a lot since, like, of course, I've been closer to death before. But not like, it kind of came unexpectedly. Very unexpectedly, since like, yeah. My blood percentage was so low and I had so little oxygen in my blood that probably another... I wouldn't have survived tonight, definitely. Speaking of Monday now, by the way. So, if I just stayed at home, I wouldn't have survived tonight. No way. I would have been dead by Tuesday. Which is kind of scary. Of course, like, yeah, you're standing beside the road and say if you were 1 more meter to the left when a car was passing you, you would die. Of course, that kind of stuff is basically, you're technically speaking, closer to death every day. But like, that was different. That was a medical reason to be close to death. And not like physical injury or anything like that. Because I've had that. I've had a hole in my head and stuff like that. This scar. Kind of on my forehead, and kind of looks like Harry Potter scar. So it's kind of awesome, I reckon. It's like barely visible, but like, yeah, that's different because if I had a reaction on my blood, and if the doctors weren't as competent as they were, I might have died. I was in another country, couldn't speak the language, probably would have died. Yeah, and that kind of... Yeah, it's kind of unsettling, really. I've just been thinking a lot about that. But all the stuff I've really done... If I guess you could do an update, the stuff I've been doing afterwards. I played a good bit of Civ, just basically chilling. Doing really as little as I can. Right now I'm playing like Civ 4. But I'm playing Rise of Mankind mod. It's basically a mod that expands like 3 times from the original game. It makes it absolutely huge. I really love interesting things in the game. But yeah. And besides that, I guess... Like today I've not really done much. I was technically supposed to be at school today, but there's a strike in the public sector. I don't support the strike, not at all. I really don't, because it's they're striking because there are large differences in pay between private and public sectors, which there are. They are considered. It's like you would be paid 20 or 25% better if you work in the private sector. Usually it's around 20% better, but like there are very clear benefits of working in the public sector which you don't get in the private sector. such as the case that you're not going to be unemployed, you're not going to get fired, you are not, well, you might get fired, of course, that is a possibility, but it's a small possibility, and you're probably not going to end up unemployed, because that's just, in Norway we are pretty safe from the euro crisis, and like, yeah, but basically processing, and you also get a lot, good deal of good benefits and other stuff that you don't necessarily get in private sector. So I would of course work in the private sector instead of the public sector, but like there are benefits to working in the public sector that you don't get in private sector, and just having worse pay is just basically the way to go. That's how to cancel differences. But they were basically protesting against that. Protesting for a larger pay rise. Since this week, they were technically supposed to have 3.75% real income increase. And that's pretty good. 3.75% is very good, actually. And I don't think that's anything to protest over. And they were protesting over the fact that they are paid worse than the private sector. But they're protesting at a bad time, because things have improved. It was worse during the 90s, but public sector pay has improved. But now they're protesting against it, and like private sector real income growth was, I think this year was either, I think it was 2.5% or 2%. But they're basically getting much more this year, and then they're protesting because they want even more. It feels kind of greedy, and just I think the reason is because they're just basically using another protest with peasants, which I kind of support a bit more. The peasants have done a good bit of stupid stuff because they're peasants, and peasants tend to be stupid. That's why they are socialist in Norway. But yeah, that's basically how stuff has been going with me. And like, yeah. So I'm probably going to stay at home, like, for the next time and stuff. So okay. Other than that, I'm just rambling right now. If you didn't, rambling and ranting right now, I think, wow, have I really been recording this long? Yes, I have. Okay, that means my tea's getting cold. Excellent. Other than that, I really I watch like stuff, and yeah, probably should just end it here. When I'm feeling better, I'm probably going to upload some of those old videos I have tomorrow, and the days after that. I don't think I really am in shape to just really record anything. I get absolutely exhausted after walking like 500 meters. So I'm improving, but I'm kind of feeling like my creative energy, the one I always have, is slowly recovering. Once that's home, that's good. And I'm going to do some TDH stuff tomorrow. I planned that out quite perfectly. And yeah, so I better just cut it off, I suppose. Thank you for watching, and yeah, goodbye.